Christmas Day didn't hurt Amanda Jessie. That was the strange part. No insults, no shouting, no dramatic moment she could point to. Just silence. She sat alone on a bench outside a closed bakery, watching people pass with gifts in their hands and warmth in their faces. Nobody noticed her. Nobody mocked her either. And somehow, that felt worse. Amanda had already decided how the day would end. She would go home early, turn off the lights, and let Christmas pass like every other day she learned not to expect much from. Then, someone sat beside her. Not too close, not asking questions, just there. She didn't look at him at first, didn't know his name, didn't know why people across the street suddenly started paying attention. All she knew was that for the first time that day, she felt seen, not judged, not pitied, just seen. What Amanda didn't know was that this quiet moment would follow her into the night and force her to confront a truth about herself she had been avoiding for years. This isn't a story about being chosen. It's about realizing something when the world finally goes quiet, and Christmas night would make that realization impossible to ignore. Stay till the end, because the most important moment in this story happens when Amanda is completely alone. Before the story continues, let me say this. If any of these stories comfort you, entertain you, or make you feel understood, please subscribe. It's free, but it means everything to this channel. Now, the bench was cold through Amanda's wool coat. December in the city meant gray skies and colder stares, though she'd stopped noticing the latter years ago. She'd developed a particular skill for it, becoming invisible in plain sight. Not because she was small or unremarkable, but because she'd learned that invisibility was sometimes a choice, a protection. The bakery behind her had closed 2 hours early for Christmas Eve. Through the darkened windows, she could still see the empty display cases where gingerbread houses had sat that morning. She'd walked past them deliberately, had felt the familiar tug of want, and then the familiar push of discipline. Amanda Jessie didn't indulge. Not in sweets, not in self-pity, not in the fantasy that holidays were meant for people like her. People like her. The phrase tasted bitter. She was a senior financial analyst at Bridgewater Consulting, the kind of position that came with a corner office view and a salary that made her mother back in Atlanta stop asking when she'd get married. The kind of position she'd earned through 70-hour weeks and a master's degree completed while working full-time. The kind of position that meant nothing on a bench outside a closed bakery on Christmas Eve. Her phone buzzed. A text from her colleague Jennifer. "Office party is amazing. Sure you can't make it?" Amanda had declined. Again. She always declined. That's when he sat down. She noticed the shift in atmosphere before she noticed him. The couple across the street stopped mid-conversation. A man walking his dog actually paused, stared, then hurried away. A car slowed and someone inside took a photograph before speeding off. Amanda turned her head slightly. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the same empty bakery window she'd been staring at, his profile sharp in the dimming afternoon light. Korean, she thought, though she immediately felt uncomfortable making the assessment. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair swept back from a face that seemed carved from something harder than flesh. He wore a black wool overcoat that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and beneath it she caught a glimpse of a crisp white shirt, no tie. But it was his stillness that struck her. He sat like Amanda imagined ancient statues sat, complete, contained, requiring nothing from the world around him. "They make good red bean pastries," he said, his voice carrying the faintest accent. "The bakery, when it's open." Amanda blinked. "I wouldn't know. You've been sitting here for 40 minutes. I assumed you were waiting for them to open." She turned to face him fully then. "You've been watching me for 40 minutes?" "No." He met her gaze, and she saw his eyes were dark, almost black, and completely unreadable. "I'm watching the street. You happened to be in it." It should have felt like an insult. It didn't. "I'm not waiting for anything," Amanda said, surprising herself by continuing the conversation. "I'm just sitting. On Christmas Eve, outside a closed bakery, in the cold." "Yes." He nodded once, as if this made perfect sense. "I'm Un-woo." The name hung in the air between them. Across the street, the couple was still staring. A black car with tinted windows had appeared at the corner, idling. Amanda. She didn't know why she offered it. You don't want to go home, Amanda. It wasn't a question. She should have been offended by the presumption, but instead she found herself responding honestly. No, neither do I. They sat in silence for several minutes. It wasn't uncomfortable. Amanda couldn't remember the last time silence with another person hadn't felt like a judgment, a waiting for her to be smaller, quieter, less. The pastries are too sweet anyway, Unwoo said finally. They use the cheap red bean paste. You sound like you have opinions about pastries. I have opinions about most things. He stood then, and she realized he was taller than she had expected, maybe 6'2", all lean angles under the expensive coat. There's a tea house 6 blocks from here. It's open. The owner is Korean, makes proper hotek, not too sweet, adequate. He said adequate, the way most people said excellent. I don't drink tea with strangers, Amanda said. We're not strangers. I'm Unwoo. You're Amanda. We both hate Christmas and have nowhere else to be. He paused. And you've been sitting on that bench for 40 minutes in 20 degrees weather. I'm offering you hot tea and pastries. You can leave whenever you want. Amanda studied him. There was something off about this entire interaction, something her analyst brain was trying to flag. The couple watching, the idling car, the way he stood like someone accustomed to be obeyed. Why? Asked Amanda. Why what? Why invite a stranger for tea? Unwoo tilted his head slightly, considering. Because you're the first person I've seen all day who looks as tired of pretending as I am. The words hit something in her chest, a recognition so sharp it was almost painful. 6 blocks, Amanda said, and I'm buying my own tea. Acceptable. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. The tea house was called Myeongdong Dreams, tucked between a dry cleaner and a shuttered bookstore. Inside it was warm and smelled of cinnamon and honey. The walls were decorated with traditional Korean fans and contemporary art, an odd mixture that somehow worked. There were only 3 other customers, all giving Unwoo a wide berth as they entered. The owner, an elderly Korean woman, greeted Unwoo with a bow that seemed both respectful and afraid. They exchanged rapid Korean, and I caught the word sajangnim, boss. You own this place? Asked Amanda, as they sat at a table by the window. No, Mrs. Kang does. I own the building. Ah! Amanda began to understand the atmosphere, the careful distance. Landlord. Something like that. The tea arrived. Omija tea, 5-flavored tea, Mrs. Kang explained in halting English, setting down 2 delicate cups. Then came the hotuk, the Korean sweet pancakes crisp on the outside, steaming with brown sugar and nuts inside. Amanda took a bite. It was, as Unwoo had promised, adequate, which meant it was delicious. You were right about the sweetness, she said. I usually am. Confident. Accurate. He sipped his tea, watching her over the rim of his cup. You work in finance. It wasn't a question, but Amanda answered anyway. How did you know? The way you assessed me when I sat down, risk calculation, threat assessment, cost-benefit analysis of speaking to a stranger. Your coat is expensive, but 3 years old. You bought it when you got a promotion and have maintained it carefully because you don't waste money on things that don't last. Your shoes are designer but practical. You dress for a conservative corporate environment but choose brands that suggest you don't care about impressing anyone. He paused. And your nails. Amanda glanced down at her hands. Her nails were short, neat, unpolished. You type constantly. Long nails would interfere, but you could afford a manicure. You choose not to because it's frivolous and you probably work 80-hour weeks during quarter end. Finance, senior level, probably analyst or consultant. Amanda set down her tea carefully. That's unnerving. You do the same thing. You've already assessed my net worth, my tailoring, and the fact that people are afraid of me. You've noticed the car that followed us here. You're wondering if you made a mistake coming here, but you're not scared. Should I be? Probably. He broke off a piece of hotuk. But you're not the type to scare easily. You don't know me. No. His eyes met hers again, and this time she saw something beneath the hard surface, a recognition that mirrored her own, I know what it looks like when someone spends every day proving they don't need anyone. I know what it looks like when someone sits alone on Christmas Eve, choosing isolation over the exhaustion of pretending to belong. Amanda's throat tightened. That's quite an assumption. Is it wrong? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. They drank their tea in silence. Outside, the light was fading, Christmas lights beginning to glow in windows and storefronts. Inside, the warmth and the tea and the strange comfort of sitting with someone who didn't need her to be anything other than what she was began to work on Amanda like a slow spell. "I don't like Christmas," she said finally. "Neither do I. I don't mean I'm cynical about it. I mean I actively dislike it. The forced cheer, the assumption that everyone has somewhere to go, someone to be with, the way people look at you if you say you're spending it alone, like you're tragic or broken. You're neither tragic nor broken. You're self-sufficient. People find that threatening. Do you?" "No." He refilled her teacup from the pot Mrs. Kang had left. "I find it refreshing." Amanda studied him, really studied him this time. There was something about the set of his shoulders, the way he moved with absolute economy, no wasted gesture. There was power there, the kind that didn't announce itself because it didn't need to. "What do you do, besides own buildings?" "I manage interests." That's deliberately vague. "Yes." "You're not going to tell me? Would it change whether you finish your tea?" Amanda considered. "No. Then it doesn't matter." He was right, and that was somehow more unsettling than anything else. She should care, she should be worried, but sitting here, warm and fed and seen by someone who didn't need her to be anything other than what she was, she found she couldn't muster the energy for appropriate caution. "This is strange," she said. "Yes, I don't do this. I don't talk to strangers. I don't accept invitations from men I've just met. I don't extend them." Unwoo leaned back slightly. "You can leave whenever you want, Amanda. The door is there. I won't follow you. I won't ask for your number. This can be exactly what it is. Two people having tea on Christmas Eve because neither of them wants to be alone and then never seeing each other again. It was the perfect out, the safe exit." Amanda picked up her teacup. "Tell me something true." "About what?" "About you. Something real." Unwoo was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. When he spoke, his voice was softer, almost reflective. "I came to this country when I was 19. I had nothing. No family, no connections, no legal status. I was angry and desperate, and willing to do things I'm not proud of to survive." He looked at Amanda. "I built everything I have from that anger. And now I sit in rooms with people who fear me, who respect what I've become, and I feel nothing. Empty, like I won everything and lost something essential in the process." The confession hung between them, raw and unexpected. "Your turn." Amanda set down her cup. "I spent my entire childhood being told I was too much, too loud, too big, too ambitious, too everything. So I made myself smaller. Not physically, I could never manage that, and eventually I stopped trying, but smaller in every other way. I became so good at taking up less space that now I don't know how to take up any space. I'm successful, I'm respected, I'm financially secure, and I'm so fucking lonely I could scream." The words came out before she could stop them. She'd never said them out loud before, had never even articulated them fully to herself. Unwoo didn't look away, didn't offer empty comfort or change the subject. "We're quite a pair," he said finally. Despite everything, Amanda laughed. It came out rusty, unpracticed. "I suppose we are." They finished their tea. Mrs. Kang brought more hotuk without being asked, and Amanda ate 3, not bothering to count calories or worry about the sugar content or think about anything except the warmth and the taste and the strange suspended moment of just existing. When they finally left, it was full dark outside. The street was quieter now. Most people already home or at parties. The black car was still waiting. "That's yours," Amanda said, nodding towards it. "Yes, your driver has been waiting for 2 hours. He's paid well for his patience." Amanda pulled her coat tighter. The cold felt sharper after the warmth of the tea house. "Thank you for the tea and the pastries and the conversation where we admitted we're both hollow successes." "That," she smiled, despite herself. "Yes, that." Unwoo reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. Simple, expensive cardstock, just a name and a phone number. "If you ever want to not be alone again," he said, handing it to her, "or if you ever want adequate pastries and honest conversation." Amanda took the card, her fingers brushing his for just a moment. "I thought you said you wouldn't ask for my number." "I didn't. I gave you mine. The choice is entirely yours." Very carefully phrased. "I'm a careful man." She tucked the card into her pocket. "Goodbye, Unwoo." "Goodbye, Amanda." She walked away, heading toward the subway station 6 blocks south. She didn't look back, but she felt his gaze on her until she turned the corner. The card sat in her pocket like a small, warm weight. Amanda told herself she wouldn't call. She told herself this was just a strange, momentary connection, the kind that happens in cities during holidays when loneliness gets the better of people. She told herself a lot of things as she rode the subway home to her empty apartment. And when she got there, when she turned on the lights and saw the silence stretching out before her like a physical thing, she pulled out the card and stared at the number for a long, long time. 3 weeks passed. Amanda threw herself into work with the kind of focus that had made her successful in the first place. Quarter-end reports, client presentations, a potential merger that required 70-page analyses and 4-hour meetings. She arrived at the office at 6:30 each morning and left after 9 each night. She did not call the number on the card. The card sat on her nightstand, visible every morning when she woke and every night when she turned off the lights. Sometimes she picked it up, ran her thumb over the embossed letters of Unwoo's name, but she never dialed. If you're watching from Lagos, London, or anywhere across the world, drop a comment and let me know. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories that make you feel. January arrived with fresh snow and a coldness that felt different from December's, more permanent somehow, less festive, more resigned. Amanda's life continued in its careful patterns: work, gym, groceries, a rotation of 3 restaurants near her apartment where she ate dinner alone with a book, weekend mornings at the library, Sunday afternoons doing laundry and meal prep for the week. It was fine. It was always fine. She told herself she'd forgotten about Unwoo, about that strange suspended evening over tea, but then she'd see a Korean restaurant and slow her steps, or she'd be in a meeting assessing risk factors and calculating probabilities and remember his observation, "You work 80-hour weeks during quarter end." He'd been right about that. He'd been right about a lot of things. On a Thursday evening, 3 weeks and 4 days after Christmas, Amanda's life fractured. She was working late. This wasn't unusual. The office was quiet, most people having left by 7. She was deep in a spreadsheet tracking investment patterns for a client when her phone rang. Her mother, calling at 10 p.m., which meant something was wrong. "Mom?" "Amanda." Her voice was tight, controlled in the way it got when she was trying not to cry. "It's your father. He's in the hospital. They think it's his heart." The world tilted. Her father, her quiet, steady father who had worked at the post office for 37 years, who paid for her college education with savings he'd accumulated over decades, who called her every Sunday to ask about work and never mentioned that she rarely called him first. How bad? "They're running tests. Triple bypass, maybe. The insurance will cover some of it, but..." Her mother's voice broke. "Baby, I don't know what we're going to do. The medical bills, the time off work I'll need to take." Amanda's analyst brain kicked in immediately, running calculations. Her parents' insurance had a high deductible, her father's medication costs. Her mother couldn't take unpaid leave. They needed her income. "I'll handle it," Amanda said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Mom, listen to me. I'll handle it. I'll get on a flight tomorrow." "Amanda, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She hung up and immediately started calculating. Her savings could cover medical costs, but it would take everything. Her emergency fund, gone. The money she'd been setting aside for a down payment on a condo, gone. Years of careful financial planning, evaporated. It was worth it. Of course it was. But the fear that came with it was real and sharp. Amanda booked the flight, called her boss, sent emails rearranging meetings. She moved through the practical steps with mechanical efficiency, not letting herself feel anything yet. It was only when she was home packing a bag at midnight that she saw the card on her nightstand. She picked it up without thinking, stared at the number. Unwoo had said, "If you ever want to not be alone again." Her finger hovered over the call button. She put the phone down. She could handle this. She'd always handled things. That's what she did. She solved problems, managed crises, stayed strong. She didn't need anyone. But God, she was tired of not needing anyone. Amanda picked up the phone again. This time she pressed call before she could talk herself out of it. It rang twice. "Amanda." His voice was the same, calm, certain, like he'd been expecting her call. "How did you know it was me? I only gave that number to one person." A pause. "What's wrong? What makes you think something's wrong? It's midnight on a Thursday. You're calling a number you've been staring at for 3 weeks, and your voice is different." Different how? Scared. She should have been offended. She wasn't. "My father's in the hospital. Heart problems. I'm flying to Atlanta tomorrow. I don't know why I called. I'm sorry, this was stupid." "No." His voice was firm. "It wasn't stupid. Where are you?" "Home, packing. Give me your address." "Unwoo." "Give me your address, Amanda." She did. She didn't know why, but she did. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. "You don't have to." 20 minutes. He hung up. Amanda stood in her bedroom holding her phone, wondering what she'd just done. She could text him back, tell him not to come. She could be rational and self-sufficient and fine. Instead, she finished packing. He arrived in 18 minutes. Amanda buzzed him up, then stood at her door, suddenly aware that she was in sweatpants and an old Howard University t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked nothing like the composed woman from the tea house. The knock was soft. She opened the door. Unwoo stood in her hallway looking exactly as she remembered. Dark coat, sharp face, eyes that saw too much. He held 2 paper bags. "You haven't eaten," he said, walking past her into the apartment. "How could you possibly know that? You've been making travel arrangements and handling a crisis for 3 hours. You didn't eat." He set the bags on her small kitchen counter. "I brought soup, and those red bean pastries you pretended not to want." Amanda felt something crack in her chest. "You remembered. I remember everything you said." He unpacked containers of soup, still steaming. "Sit. Eat. Then tell me what you need." "I don't need anything. I don't know why I called." "Yes, you do." He pulled out a chair at her small table. "Sit, Amanda." She sat. He ladled soup into a bowl, something with vegetables and broth that smelled like comfort, set it in front of her with a spoon. Then he sat across from her, not eating, just watching. "I can handle this," she said, picking up the spoon. "I know you can. I've always handled things. I know. I don't need to be rescued. I'm not rescuing you. I'm sitting with you while you eat soup at midnight because your father is in the hospital and you're scared and tired of being strong alone." He leaned back. "There's a difference." Amanda's hands started shaking. The soup spoon clattered against the bowl. And then, without warning or permission, she was crying. Not delicate tears, but huge, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep and locked away. Years of being strong, years of being fine, years of telling herself she didn't need anyone. Unwoo didn't move, didn't offer platitudes or try to fix anything. He just sat there, a steady presence in her small kitchen, and let her fall apart. When she finally stopped, she felt hollowed out and exhausted. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't apologize for being human." She looked up at him. "Why did you come?" "Because you called. Because I know what it's like to carry everything alone. Because 3 weeks ago, you sat with me when I was tired of pretending." He pushed the soup toward her. "Eat, then sleep. I'll stay until your flight if you want, or I'll leave now if you'd prefer. But you're not alone tonight unless you choose to be." Amanda picked up the spoon. The soup was still warm. It tasted like someone cared, which was a flavor she'd almost forgotten. "Stay," she said quietly. "Okay." They didn't talk much after that. Amanda ate. Unwoo made tea in her small kitchen like he'd been there 100 times. She finished packing while Unwoo sat on her couch reading a book he'd pulled from her shelf. beloved Toni Morrison, one of her favorites. At 3 a.m., exhausted, Amanda finally admitted she needed to sleep. "My flight's at 10, she said. "I'll drive you. You don't have to." "Amanda," he looked at her steadily, "stop telling me what you don't have to do. I'm here because I choose to be. Let that be enough." She nodded, too tired to argue. She went to her bedroom, changed into pajamas, climbed into bed. She expected to lie awake, anxious about her father, about the medical bills, about everything. Instead, she fell asleep in minutes, aware that in her living room, Eun-woo sat awake, a quiet guardian against the night. Eun-woo drove her to the airport in the same black car that had waited outside the tea house. In the early morning light, Amanda could see him more clearly, the fine lines around his eyes, the scar along his jaw that she hadn't noticed before, the way his hands rested on the steering wheel with absolute certainty. "You don't have a driver today," she observed. "No. Why not? Because this isn't business. This is personal." The word hung between them, significant. They rode in comfortable silence for several miles before Amanda spoke. "You never told me what you actually do." "No. Are you going to? Would you like me to lie?" "I'd like you to be honest. I manage certain operations. Import-export primarily, some real estate holdings, various business interests that require discretion and connections." "That's still vague." "Yes." He turned his attention back to the road. "I operate in gray areas, Amanda. Not quite legal, not quite illegal. The kind of business that keeps me wealthy and keeps me from sleeping well at night." "You're telling me you're a criminal." "I'm telling you I'm complicated." He paused. "Does it change things?" Amanda considered. She should be shocked, should demand to get out of the car. But she'd spent 3 weeks doing due diligence on the card in her pocket, and some part of her had already known. "No," she said finally. "I think I already knew you weren't entirely legitimate. People don't look at landlords the way they look at you. And you're not concerned? Should I be? Probably." He pulled into the airport departures lane. "But I've never lied to you, and I never will. That's all I can offer. Honesty about what I am." He parked, came around to help with her bag. In the bright morning light, the moment felt both ordinary and monumental. "Thank you," Amanda said. "For last night. For the soup. For staying. You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." She looked at him directly. "I haven't let anyone in for a very long time, Eun-woo. I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "This. Whatever this is. Friendship. Connection. I don't have a framework for it." "Neither do I." He smiled, and it transformed his face, made him look younger, less guarded. "Perhaps we can figure it out together. From different cities? Atlanta is a short flight. You're not going to show up there, are you?" "Not unless you ask me to." He pulled out another card. This one had an email address. "But if you need anything while you're there, anything at all, contact me." Amanda took the card, added it to the first one in her wallet. "You know I'll probably never call." "Yes, but you might." He stepped back, hands in his pockets. "Take care of your father, Amanda. Handle what needs handling, and then decide if you want someone in your life who sees you completely." She left then, walking through the sliding doors into the terminal. When she looked back, he was still there, watching, not moving, just present. The flight to Atlanta was turbulent, but Amanda barely noticed. She was thinking about gray areas and honest criminals, and the strange comfort of someone who didn't need her to be anything but herself. Her father's surgery was successful. Triple bypass. 3 hours, and he came through strong. Amanda spent 2 weeks in Atlanta, managing medical bills and insurance companies with the same efficiency she applied to corporate accounts. She paid $47,000 out of her savings, arranged payment plans for the rest, set up a system for her mother to manage medications and follow up appointments. She didn't call Eun-woo, but she thought about him constantly. On her last night in Atlanta, sitting in the hospital room while her father slept, Amanda pulled out both business cards, the one with the phone number, the one with the email. She'd always been self-sufficient, had prided herself on needing no one, but sitting in that sterile room, watching her father breathe slowly and steadily, Amanda realized that self-sufficiency and loneliness weren't the same thing. She opened her email, typed carefully. Subject: Amanda. I'm coming home Tuesday. My father is stable. The bills are handled. I'm fine. I'm also tired of being fine alone. Coffee sometime? Real coffee, not adequate tea. Amanda. She sent it before she could reconsider. The response came in less than 5 minutes. Amanda. Wednesday, 3 p.m. There's a coffee shop in Brooklyn called Reveille. They make exceptional espresso and terrible scones. I'll be at the table by the window. E. Amanda smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. Reveille coffee was everything Eunwoo had promised. Exceptional espresso, terrible scones, and a window table where he sat reading a newspaper like he'd been there for hours. Amanda stood outside for a full minute, watching him through the glass. He looked different in daylight, less intimidating, more simply present. His coat was hung on the back of his chair. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows. He was, she realized, the most contained person she'd ever met. She went inside. He looked up immediately, as if he'd been aware of her the entire time she'd been standing outside. "You're early," he said. "You're earlier." "I'm always early." He stood, pulled out her chair. "How's your father?" "Recovering. Frustrated that he can't go back to work yet." She sat, accepted the espresso he'd already ordered for her. "You remembered how I take my coffee. Light, no sugar. You mentioned it at the tea house." "I mentioned a lot of things at the tea house. I remember all of them." They fell into conversation easily, easier than should have been possible for two people who'd only met twice. Amanda told him about Atlanta, about her parents, about the strange comfort of being needed, even when being needed was exhausting. Eunwoo told her about a business deal that had gone wrong, about trust betrayed, about the particular exhaustion of managing an empire built on reputation and fear. "Do you ever want to walk away from all of it?" asked Amanda. "Every day." He stirred sugar into his third espresso. "But walking away isn't that simple when you've built everything from nothing. Where would I go? What would I do? I am my work. Amanda, without it, I'm not sure what remains." "A man who buys pastries for strangers and remembers coffee orders," she said. "That remains." He looked at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "You see me differently than most people. How do most people see you? Dangerous, powerful, useful, or threatening depending on their needs. And how do I see you? Like I'm a person, just a person." He set down his cup. "It's unsettling. Good unsettling or bad unsettling? I haven't decided yet." They stayed until the coffee shop closed at 9, talked about everything and nothing. Amanda found herself laughing at his dry observations about terrible coffee shop music and the couple 3 tables over having an obviously awkward first date. When they finally left, walking into the Brooklyn evening, Amanda felt lighter than she had in months. "Can I see you again?" Eunwoo asked, as they stood on the sidewalk. "Not in 2 weeks. Soon. I work late most nights." "So do I. We can work late together. I have an office with an excellent view. You can bring your laptop. We don't have to talk. Just not be alone." It was such a strange invitation. Such an honest one. "Friday, 7 p.m. Text me the address." "I will." He stepped closer, and for a moment he thought he might kiss her. Instead, he took her hand, held it briefly. "Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being here." She took the subway home, and the whole way she felt the ghost of his hand in hers. They fell into a pattern after that. Friday nights became their time. Sometimes they met at his office, a converted warehouse space in Red Hook with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. They'd work in companionable silence, the sound of typing and occasional comments about work the only interruption. Sometimes they met at restaurants, places Eunwoo knew that Amanda never would have found. Korean barbecue in Flushing, where the owner greeted him like family. A tiny Ethiopian place in Harlem, where they ate with their hands and Eunwoo told her about traveling through East Africa when he was younger. They never called them dates. Neither of them defined what this was. But it was something. Amanda felt herself changing in small ways. She accepted a lunch invitation from Jennifer at work. She took a Saturday off to visit a museum. She laughed more easily, felt less like she was performing competence, and more like she was simply living. "You seem different lately," her mother said during their Sunday call. "Lighter." "I've been working less," Amanda lied. "Or maybe you've been spending time with someone?" Her mother's voice held a knowing warmth. "Maybe," Amanda admitted. She still didn't tell anyone about Eunwoo. How could she? I'm spending time with a Korean man who operates in legal gray areas and whom people fear for reasons I don't entirely understand. It didn't translate well. But on Friday nights, when she sat in his office and he brought her tea without asking, and they existed together in easy silence, none of that mattered. It was a Friday in late February when things shifted. Amanda arrived at Unwoo's office at 7 as usual, her laptop bag over her shoulder, ready for their quiet evening of parallel work. But when she entered, she found him standing at his window, tension visible in every line of his body. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting down her bag. "A complication." He didn't turn around. "A business partner from Seoul is in town. He wants to meet tonight. Here." "Oh," Amanda picked up her bag. "I should go." "No." He turned then, and she saw something fierce in his expression. "I want you to stay." "Unwoo, if this is business—" "It's always business with Park, but you're not business. You're—" He stopped, seeming to search for words. "You're separate from all of that, and I'm tired of keeping everything separate." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want you here. I want Park to see that there's more to my life than deals and territories. I want—" He stopped again, ran a hand through his hair in a rare display of uncertainty. "I want to see what happens when my worlds collide." Amanda should have said no, should have maintained the boundaries they'd so carefully constructed, but looking at him, this man who was always controlled, always certain, now standing vulnerable in his expensive office, she found she couldn't. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." Relief flooded his features. "Thank you." Park arrived at 7:30. He was older than Unwoo, maybe mid-50s, with silver hair and a suit that probably cost more than Amanda's monthly salary. His eyes were sharp, assessing, and when he saw Amanda, they narrowed. "Unwoo." He spoke in Korean, rapid and sharp. Unwoo responded in the same language, his tone cold and final. Then he switched to English. "Park, this is Amanda Jessie. Amanda, this is Park Min-jun." Amanda stood, extended her hand. "Mr. Park." He took it after a moment's hesitation, his grip testing. "Miss Jessie, I wasn't aware Unwoo had personal guests during business hours." "He usually doesn't," Amanda said evenly. "I'll work quietly while you discuss whatever you need to discuss." She sat back down, opened her laptop, and proceeded to ignore both of them with a focus that was entirely genuine. She had a quarterly report due Monday. Their business drama was irrelevant to her spreadsheets. But she was aware of Park's frequent glances, of the tension in the room shifting from straightforward business negotiation to something else: assessment, judgment, power testing. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Amanda worked through it all, occasionally making notes, once getting up to refill her coffee without asking permission or acknowledging she was interrupting. Finally, Park stood to leave. "Unwoo, we'll continue this discussion later, privately." "No." Unwoo's voice was quiet, but absolute. "Amanda stays. If we continue this discussion, we continue it now, or we don't continue it at all." Park's expression darkened. "You're making a mistake. That's for me to decide. Is she worth jeopardizing our arrangement? She's not part of our arrangement. She's not part of my business at all. She's separate, and she stays separate. That's non-negotiable." Amanda closed her laptop, looked directly at Park. "Mr. Park, I don't know what business you have with Unwoo, and I don't need to know. But if your arrangement requires him to have no personal life, then perhaps your arrangement is the problem, not his choices." The room went very quiet. Park stared at her, something like surprise flickering across his face. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. "Bold," he said to Unwoo in English. "I see why you keep her around." "I don't keep her anywhere," Unwoo said coldly. "She chooses to be here. There's a difference." Park studied them both, and Amanda felt the weight of his assessment. Whatever he was looking for, he seemed to find it. "Very well," he said finally. "We'll proceed as discussed. Your personal life is your own, Unwoo, as long as it doesn't interfere with business." It won't. After Park left, silence filled the office. Amanda packed up her laptop slowly, aware that something had just happened that she didn't understand. "I'm sorry," Unwoo said quietly. "I shouldn't have put you in that position. You didn't put me anywhere. I chose to stay." She looked at him. "Who is Park to you?" "A connection to Seoul, to resources I sometimes need, to a past I've been trying to leave behind." And did I just complicate your business relationship? No. He moved towards her, stopping a few feet away. You complicated everything else. Meaning I told one of the most dangerous men I know, that you're separate from my business, that you're not to be touched, not to be used, not to be part of any arrangement. Do you understand what that means in my world? Tell me. It means I claimed you, Amanda, not as property, not as possession, but as someone under my protection, someone who matters. It means if anyone in my sphere tries to hurt you or use you against me, they'll have to go through me first. Amanda's breath caught. You should have asked me first. Would you have said yes? She considered. I don't know. It's a lot. It is. He stepped closer. But I can't keep pretending you're just someone I have coffee with. I can't keep pretending that I don't think about you constantly, that I don't rearrange my Fridays around seeing you, that I haven't felt more like myself in the past 2 months than I have in years. Unwoo, I don't need to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way, but I needed you to know that when Park walked in here tonight, when he looked at you like you were a weakness he could exploit, I realized I'd burn down everything I've built before I let anyone hurt you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Amanda set down her laptop bag, took a step toward him, then another. That's terrifying, she said quietly. I know. I don't need protection. I've spent my whole life taking care of myself. I know that too. But I'm tired of taking care of myself alone. She looked up at him, this dangerous man with the careful hands and the quiet voice. I'm tired of pretending I don't feel this too. His expression shifted, hope and relief and something deeper. Amanda, don't make promises about forever. Don't tell me this will be simple. Just tell me you're here, now, real. I'm here. I'm real, and I'm terrified. Good. She reached up, touched his face, felt the sharp line of his jaw under her palm. I'm terrified too. When he kissed her, it wasn't soft or gentle. It was real and urgent, and tasted like two people who'd spent months being careful, finally letting go. His hands came up to frame her face, her fingers tangled in his hair, and for a long moment there was nothing but this. Connection, recognition, the relief of not being alone. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Unwoo rested his forehead against hers. This changes things, he whispered. Everything changes things, Amanda whispered back. What do we do now? Figure it out as we go. Together. Together. He tested the word like it was foreign, precious. I like that. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped together in his office overlooking the harbor, while the city lights sparkled below and the world continued spinning without them. February turned to March. Their relationship, for that's what it was now, explicitly acknowledged, developed its own rhythm. Amanda learned the geography of Unwoo's world, the warehouse district where he kept his office, the apartment in Tribeca where he lived, minimalist and expensive, full of windows and very little furniture, the restaurants where owners greeted him with respect, tinged with fear, the phone calls he took in Korean, his voice dropping to a register she'd never heard before, cold, commanding, absolute. She learned that he drank omega tea when stressed, that he was left-handed, that he had a scar on his shoulder from a knife fight when he was 20, that he'd killed 2 men in self-defense and didn't sleep well because of it, that he donated anonymously to 3 different charities focused on immigrant services and youth programs. He was complicated, more complicated than she'd ever imagined, but he was also gentle with her, patient. He never pressed for more than she wanted to give, never asked her to be part of his business, never brought danger to her door. You keep me separate, she said one night, lying in his bed, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Yes. Why? Because you're the only pure thing in my life, Amanda, the only thing that isn't tangled in deals and obligations and violence. I need that. I need you to be separate. I'm not pure. I'm just a person. You're yourself, completely yourself, no performance, no persona, no armor. His hand traced patterns on her shoulder. Everyone else in my life wants something, position, money, protection, power. You just want to sit quietly and answer emails while I answer emails. It's the most honest relationship I've ever had. Amanda was quiet for a moment. what if I want more? She felt him tense beneath her. More how? I don't know yet, but keeping me separate from your life, it feels like you're ashamed of me. Never. He sat up, forcing her to look at him. Amanda, I'm not ashamed. I'm protective. There's a difference. Or maybe you're afraid. Of what? Of what happens when I see all of you, not just the man who buys me coffee and kisses me gently, the man Park was talking to, the man people fear, the man who killed people. Unwoo's expression shuddered. You don't want to see that man. How do you know what I want? She sat up fully, pulling the sheet around herself. You've decided I'm fragile, that I need protection from reality. But I'm not fragile, Unwoo. I've never been fragile, and I don't need you to sanitize yourself for me. This isn't about you being fragile. Then what's it about? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. It's about me being terrified that if you see all of me, you'll leave. And I can't... He stopped, collected himself. I can't lose you. I didn't know I could feel this until you, and now that I do, the thought of losing it is unbearable. The confession broke something open in Amanda's chest. So you'll keep me in a bubble, safe and separate and protected, but never fully with you? I don't know how to do this differently. Figure it out, because I don't want part of you, Unwoo. I want all of you, the danger and the violence and the complications. I want the man Park sees, the man your associates fear, the man who built an empire from nothing, not just the gentle version you show me. You say that now. I mean it now, and I'll mean it tomorrow. She took his face in her hands, made him look at her. I'm not going anywhere, but you have to let me in. Actually in, not just the parts you think I can handle. He searched her face, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes, fear and want, and the desperate hope that she meant what she said. Okay, he whispered finally. Okay, if you're still with me, I appreciate you. Leave a comment telling me what you think so far, and don't forget to subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories like this. The next Friday, Unwoo invited her to a meeting. Not to observe quietly from the corner, but to sit beside him, to be acknowledged as his partner, not in business, but in life, which in his world amounted to the same thing. Amanda dressed carefully, professional but not corporate, strong but not aggressive. She'd learned the language of presentation years ago. Now she used it deliberately. The meeting was in a private room at a Korean restaurant in Koreatown. 5 men, all older than Unwoo, all watching her with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity. Unwoo made introductions in Korean, then in English. This is Amanda Jessie. She's with me. The phrase was simple. The meaning was not. They talked business. Import schedules, payment structures, territory disputes in Seattle that needed resolution. Amanda listened, asked 2 pointed questions about financial liability and risk distribution that made 3 of the men reassess her with new respect. She wasn't there to contribute to criminal enterprises. She was there to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be real. After the meeting, one of the men, Kim, older, scarred, dangerous, approached her while Unwoo was on a phone call. You're not what I expected, he said in accented English. What did you expect? Someone softer, someone he could control. Kim studied her. But you're not soft, and you don't take orders. No. Good. He nodded once. Unwoo needs someone who isn't afraid of him, someone who sees him clearly. Most people only see the power or the danger. You see the man. Is that a warning or approval? Both. Kim smiled, and it wasn't entirely friendly. He's made you a target by acknowledging you publicly. You understand that. I understand that anyone who comes after me to get to him will regret it. Amanda met his gaze steadily. I don't need Unwoo's protection. I'm not weak, Mr. Kim. I'm just patient. Kim laughed, surprised and genuine. I like you. Try not to get killed. I'll do my best. When Unwoo returned, Kim said something to him in Korean that made Unwoo's expression soften. Whatever it was approval. In the car afterward, Amanda said, What did Kim say to you? That you're dangerous in your own way, that I should be careful. Of me? For me. He took her hand. Thank you for being there tonight. Thank you for letting me in. They drove in comfortable silence for a while before Amanda spoke again. I need you to promise me something. Anything. I need you to promise me, don't make me helpless. I can be part of your world without being vulnerable in it. I'm intelligent, I'm capable, and I can handle more than you think. Don't turn me into something that needs constant protection. I don't think you're helpless, Amanda. Then treat me like an equal, not a liability, not something fragile, an equal. Unwoo pulled the car over, parked, turned to face her. You're right. I've been protecting you because I'm afraid, not because you need protection. That's not fair to you. No, it's not. So how do we do this? How do we be together without me constantly worrying that my world will destroy you? You trust that I'm strong enough to survive your world, and I trust that you'll be honest with me about the dangers. She squeezed his hand. We're equals, Unwoo, in every way that matters. Not boss and employee, not protector and protected. Just two people who choose each other, complications and all. Equals, he repeated, and something in his expression shifted. Relief mixed with recognition. I've never had that before. Neither have I. They sat there, hands clasped, the city bright around them, both understanding that they'd just crossed some invisible threshold into territory neither had mapped before. I love you, Unwoo said quietly. I didn't know I could feel this until you, and I love you. Amanda's breath caught. She'd been waiting for those words without realizing it, had been carrying her own admission for weeks. I love you too, she whispered. Complications and all. When he kissed her, it felt like a promise, not of safety or simplicity, but of truth, of being seen completely and choosing each other anyway. Spring arrived late in New York, hesitant and cold, but when it finally came, it transformed the city into something softer, more forgiving. Amanda and Unwoo settled into a life that was neither simple nor safe, but was entirely theirs. She kept her job at Bridgewater, kept her apartment as a space that was only hers. He continued managing his complicated empire, making deals and maintaining power with the same cold efficiency he'd always had. But between them, there was warmth, there was honesty, there was the strange comfort of being completely known. On a Thursday in late March, Amanda's boss called her into his office. I'm recommending you for partner, he said without preamble. The board meets next month. If you accept, you'll be the youngest partner in the firm's history, also the first black woman partner. Amanda sat down slowly. Thank you. You've earned it, Jesse. Your work is exceptional. Your clients trust you. You're exactly what this firm needs moving forward. He slid a folder across the desk. The compensation package is in here. Take the weekend to think about it. She left his office in a daze, the folder heavy in her hands. Partnership. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd sacrificed for, and she felt empty. That night, she sat in Unwoo's apartment, the folder unopened on his coffee table, staring at nothing. Congratulations, he said, sitting beside her, careful not to touch her unless she wanted it. Thank you. You don't sound happy. I'm not unhappy. I'm just confused. About what? Amanda gestured at the folder. This is everything I wanted. Everything I've spent 10 years building towards. I should be ecstatic. But you're not? No. She looked at him. Do you ever feel like you achieved everything you wanted and then realized the wanting was more satisfying than the having? Every day. He leaned back. What do you want, Amanda? Really want? Not what you think you should want. She was quiet for a long time. Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. Inside, the question hung between them like something alive. I want to matter, she said finally. Not matter to a corporation or title. I want my work to mean something beyond profit margins and client retention. Your work matters now, does it? I help rich people get richer. I'm exceptional at it. But what does it change? Who does it help? Unwoo was quiet, letting her work through it. My father almost died because he couldn't afford proper health care. I watched my mother choose between paying for his medications and paying the electric bill, and I sit in boardrooms helping companies hide assets and minimize taxes. I'm very good at my job, Unwoo, and it's making me hollow. So change it. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. He sat forward. You're about to become partner. You'll have power, influence, the ability to choose your clients. Use it. Take on the clients whose work actually matters to you. Or don't take the partnership. Start your own firm. Consult for non-profits. Amanda, you're not trapped. You're just afraid. Afraid of what? of admitting that what you've been chasing for a decade isn't actually what you want, of starting over, of being uncertain. He took her hand. I know that fear intimately. I've built everything I have from it. What would you do if you could start over? I'd do something legitimate, something that helped people instead of exploiting them. He smiled sadly. But I can't start over. My past is my past. You, however, you can choose differently. Amanda looked at the folder, the partnership offer, the validation she'd been seeking. What if I fail? Then you fail, and you try something else. But at least you'll fail doing something that matters to you. She opened the folder, read through the terms. The salary was substantial, $340,000 base, profit sharing that could double that. The prestige was significant. The security was absolute. She closed the folder. I'm going to turn it down, she said, surprised by her own certainty. Are you sure? No, but I'm sure that taking it would be the safe choice, and I'm tired of making the safe choice. She looked at him. You make me braver. Did you know that? You were always brave. You're just starting to believe it. Maybe. She set the folder aside. I need to figure out what I actually want. Not what I think I should want. What I want. Take your time. Figure it out. I'll be here. Promise? Promise. He pulled her close, and she let herself be held, let herself be uncertain, let herself be in the process of becoming something new. Amanda turned down the partnership. The decision shocked her colleagues, disappointed her boss, and confused her mother. But when she said the words, I need to do something that matters more, she felt lighter than she had in years. She gave notice, worked her final month with the same excellence she'd always brought, and on her last day, she walked out of Bridgewater Consulting with no plan, no safety net, just the strange exhilaration of free fall. Yoon-woo took her to dinner that night at a tiny restaurant in Queens that served the best Korean food she'd ever tasted. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass. To not knowing what comes next, she countered. Even better. They drank, ate, laughed. Around them, families celebrated birthdays and anniversaries. Normal people living normal lives. Amanda felt both apart from them and deeply connected to them, part of the human experience of choosing, failing, trying again. I've been thinking, Yoon-woo said later as they walked through the quiet streets back to his car. Dangerous habit. I want to do something legitimate, something legal. I've been setting up the structure for months, transferring operations to people I trust, liquidating certain assets, establishing clean businesses. Amanda stopped walking. You're leaving your organization? Not entirely. Some things can't be unwound. But I'm transitioning out, moving toward legitimate holdings, real estate development, import-export that doesn't require discretion. He looked at her. It'll take time, maybe years, but I want to build something I'm not ashamed of. Because of you? Because of you? Because of myself? Because I'm tired of being afraid of my past catching up. He took her hands. I'm 36 years old, Amanda. I've spent half my life building power I don't want. Maybe it's time to build something else. What if your organization won't let you go? Then I'll handle it. But I'm choosing this, choosing differently. You inspired that. She kissed him then, there on the quiet street in Queens, tasting possibility and fear and hope all mixed together. Months passed. Summer turned to fall. Fall turned to early winter. Amanda started her own consulting firm, small and selective. She took on 3 clients, a hospital system developing a new payment model for uninsured patients, a nonprofit creating affordable housing, and a cooperative of immigrant workers pooling resources. The money was less, the hours were longer, the satisfaction was immense. Yoon-woo continued his slow transition, methodically dismantling the more problematic aspects of his empire while building legitimate alternatives. It was delicate work, dangerous work, but he moved through it with the same careful certainty he brought to everything. They built a life together that was messy and complicated and real. Some nights Amanda stayed at his place, some nights he stayed at hers. They never moved in together. Both valued having their own space too much, but they built rituals, Sunday morning dim sum, Wednesday evening runs along the East River, Friday nights working in comfortable silence. They fought sometimes about her taking on too many clients, about him not fully leaving his past behind, about what commitment meant, and whether they needed to define it. But they fought honestly, never walking away, always coming back to the central truth. They chose each other, daily, deliberately. And then December arrived, Christmas approaching like a deadline neither of them wanted to acknowledge. On Christmas Eve afternoon, Amanda found herself sitting on the same bench outside the same bakery she'd sat a year ago. It was deliberate, a pilgrimage of sorts, an assessment of how far she'd come. The bakery was open this year. Through the window she could see families buying gingerbread houses and red bean pastries. The display cases were full, cheerful, inviting. She didn't go in. Instead, she sat, watching the street, thinking about the woman who'd sat here 12 months ago. That woman had been so tired, so empty, so convinced she didn't need anyone. "You're early." Amanda looked up. Yoon-woo stood there, 2 cups of coffee in hand, wearing the same dark coat he'd worn that first day. "You said to meet you at the tea house at 5. "I did. It's only 4. He sat beside her, handed her a coffee. "But I had a feeling you'd come here first. Am I that predictable?" "No, but I've known you." He sipped his coffee. "What are you thinking about?" "Last year. How different everything is. Better or worse?" "Different," she said honestly. "I was so sure I had it figured out last year. I knew who I was, what I wanted, how to survive. I had control. And now? Now, I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. I make less money, I have more questions than answers. I've let someone in who makes me vulnerable." She looked at him. "And I'm happier than I've ever been." Yoon-woo smiled, and it transformed his face the way it always did. "I know the feeling." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching people pass with their Christmas shopping and their warm coats and their busy lives. "Last year, I sat here and felt invisible," Amanda said quietly, "like I was apart from everything, outside looking in. And now? Now I feel like I'm part of it, part of the mess and the hope and the stumbling forward." She turned to him. "You did that. Not by saving me or fixing me, just by seeing me, by choosing me, by being patient while I figured out how to let someone in. You did the same for me." His voice was soft. "I was drowning in power and violence and emptiness, and then you sat with me and made me remember what it felt like to be human, to want something besides control. We saved each other," Amanda said. "Yes, we did." She leaned into him, his arm coming around her, and they sat like that as the afternoon faded into evening. Around them, the city prepared for Christmas, lights twinkling, carols playing from store speakers, the sense of celebration thick in the air. But Amanda wasn't thinking about Christmas. She was thinking about the year between then and now, about leaving her partnership, about Yoon-woo slowly, carefully dismantling the empire that had defined him, about learning to be vulnerable, about discovering that strength and softness weren't opposites, but compliments. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For sitting beside me, last year, for not asking questions or offering solutions, just being there. Thank you for calling me when your father was sick, for trusting me with your fear, for letting me see you completely." The sun was setting now, winter light turning everything gold and soft. Soon they would go to the tea house, maybe eat those adequate pastries, maybe talk about their year, maybe just exist together in the warm certainty of being known. But for now, they sat on the bench where it all began, 2 people who'd found each other in their loneliness and built something real from it. "Merry Christmas, Amanda," Eun-woo said. "Merry Christmas, Eun-woo." She kissed him softly, tasting coffee and the sharp winter air. When they stood to leave, he took her hand, and they walked together toward the tea house, toward the evening, toward whatever came next. Later that night, after the tea house, after dinner at the Tiny Queen's restaurant that had become theirs, after kissing goodnight and agreeing to meet again tomorrow, Amanda returned to her apartment alone. She poured a glass of wine, stood at her window overlooking the city. The lights spread out before her like a map of possibilities, infinite and changing. A year ago, she'd stood at this same window and felt nothing, emptiness where meaning should be, success that tasted like ash. Now she felt uncertain, scared sometimes, vulnerable in ways that still made her uncomfortable. But she also felt alive. The truth she'd been avoiding all those years, the truth that had been waiting for her to be still enough to hear it, was this: she didn't need to be fixed. She didn't need to be saved. She didn't need someone to make her whole. She'd always been whole. What she'd needed was permission to be uncertain, to want things that didn't make sense, to build a life that looked nothing like what she'd planned and everything like what she actually wanted. What she'd needed was to see herself the way Eun-woo saw her, not as a project or a problem, but as an equal, complicated, difficult, brilliant in her own way. What she'd needed was to stop proving she didn't need anyone and start admitting that choosing to need someone was its own kind of strength. Amanda picked up her phone, pulled up the photo from last Christmas that Eun-woo had insisted on taking, the two of them at the tea house, her laughing at something he'd said, his expression soft and unguarded. She'd kept it on her phone all year, looked at it during the hard days when she questioned her decisions. It reminded her of why she'd chosen differently, why she'd walked away from security, why she'd let herself love someone dangerous and complicated and real. The woman in that photo was braver than the woman who'd sat alone on a bench outside a closed bakery, not because she'd found someone, but because she'd finally found herself. Her phone buzzed, a text from Eun-woo. "Thank you for this year, for every day of it, for teaching me what it means to be chosen." She smiled, typed back, "Thank you for seeing me, always." His response was immediate, "Always." Amanda set down her phone, finished her wine, turned off the lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow she'd continue building her firm, continue learning who she was outside the armor she'd worn for so long. Tomorrow, Eun-woo would continue his careful extraction from the world that had defined him, continue becoming someone he could be proud of. Tomorrow, they'd both keep stumbling forward, imperfect and uncertain. But tonight, Christmas night, Amanda stood in the dark and felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. Not the peace of arriving, but the peace of being in motion towards something true. She'd learned the most important lesson of all. You don't need someone to save you. You just need someone willing to walk beside you while you save yourself. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find someone who's walking the same path. Someone who sees you completely, someone you choose and who chooses you back. Amanda crawled into bed, still feeling the ghost of Eun-woo's hand in hers, still tasting the winter air and the coffee and the strange, perfect rightness of choosing to be vulnerable. She didn't dream of being saved. She dreamed of walking forward, hand in hand with someone who understood that strength comes in many forms, that power isn't about control, that love isn't about completion, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you don't have to do everything alone. Outside, the city kept breathing, kept moving, kept offering up its endless possibilities. And inside, Amanda Jessie, no longer invisible, no longer performing, no longer afraid of taking up space, slept deeply for the first time in longer than she could remember. The Christmas lights across the street cast patterns on her ceiling, shifting and gentle, like the quiet promise of morning. Everything had changed, and everything was exactly as it should be. The end. Thank you for staying until the end. This story isn't about grand rescues or dramatic transformations. It's about two people recognizing each other's humanity and choosing to walk forward together, complications and all. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories that explore the quiet, powerful moments that change everything. Leave a comment below and tell me, what truth have you been avoiding that you're finally ready to face? I read every comment.